I'll continue to say, here I always will stay. So ferry, cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay.
Oh, nice.
Alright, I thought we were going to sing along, and I was like, don't.
Here I'll stay, mate.
Here I'll stay.
Welcome back to another episode of A Pint with Seaniebee. I'm here with my long-haired lover from Liverpool. He's not from Liverpool, although I'm surprised he hasn't claimed that considering the whole Australian thing. But we did come from Liverpool a few days ago. How are you, Seanie?
I'm alright, mate. I've managed to get a bit of a Liverpoolian accent while I was over there. Yeah. It was quite nice, wasn't it? Alright, anyway, this is episode 183 of A Pint with Seaniebee. We just came back from Liverpool. We were over there for about a week. And we had great time, didn't we? We
did, but like, imagine how many Liverpudlians. I do like that word,
Liverpudlians.
Liverpudlians. Imagine how
you never
offended.
Walk alone, mate. Anyway, yes, this is the Don and Seaniebee back from a week in Liverpool. Absolutely on the THRASH, mate. I went over for the Liverpool.
That took me way too long to spell.
Yes. I went over for the Liverpool versus Benfica match, courtesy of my good friend Austin, who invited me over, which was lovely, and I love going over for those. Especially, weirdly, that I'm a Manchester United fan. Those will know me and think it's sacrilegious that I would ever darken the pitch at Anfield. But this football season is amazing in terms of the two teams that are battling it out, Man City and Liverpool. By both of them, the arch nemesis, or what's the plural of nemesis? Nemesi? The arch nemesis, Man United's arch nemesis. But they're playing great football. Man United are playing shit football, so go watch where the joy and the talent is. Anyway, what did you think of Liverpool?
I liked it.
Yeah, it was
great. It was like Tala if Tala was less shit.
Yeah, well, that's saying an awful lot. It was. It's weird with Liverpool because it's like a mongrel in England.
It's like an Irish enclave.
Yeah, it's like if you think about Birmingham. Did I ever tell you my famous Birmingham joke?
Not that I can recall.
I know it's another accent thing. I'll probably make it a bit Pakistani, but it has to be done in a Birmingham accent.
You may as well offend everybody so it's not pointed at anybody.
Anyway, the great Birmingham joke is, what's the difference between a buffalo and a bison?
You can wash your face in a bison.
You can't wash your face in a buffalo. Yeah, you can wash your face in a bison. But Birmingham, Manchester, London, they're all a bit fucking tan.
I can't say I haven't been. I've only been to London.
Liverpool's the least tan city.
Well, I will say, so we were in London for.
Oh, we were in London as well.
Less than 48 hours. We went
That's
over.
That's the way we roll,
Do you know? We nipped over for dinner. Yeah, but we went over on the Monday morning, came back on the Sunday evening. So, in fairness, I haven't been on a plane.
We went over on Saturday morning.
Did I say Sunday?
You said Monday.
I beg your pardon.
We went over Saturday morning, and came back on Sunday. Having done an awful lot. Let's start with before we get to Liverpool. We had friends from Canada that were over with their kids, and we went to visit them, and we went to see Fulham play in Craven College, which was the Don's first ever football match.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And last.
What did you think of it? And last.
It was much as expected. Now, I'm very grateful to have been brought. Sean watches a lot of football and I've no fucking interest, but it doesn't bother me.
Just the type of girlfriend you need, lads,
Well, it is actually. I beg your pardon. You have no idea how lucky you are. Because I quite like just sitting there on my TikTok or reading a book or listening to my music.
Same with horse racing, by the way, lads.
Like horse racing, but I'll have a flutter. Every so often it's here, and pause that, watch this. And I have to wait for the goal to be watching. Fine, no problem. Because I actually do like being in your company. However, I do get overload. Sometimes you just want a bit of headspace. It's nice that we can be in each other's company. So I actually enjoy the football. And if we go to a pub, well, people will chat. It's quite different when you're actually at the fucking thing. Oh, it'll never end.
Did you not like the little costumes?
No, one side, the side we were supposed to be shouting for, I presume, their costumes looked well, but the away side, Coventry City. Oh, have you never heard of Purcell?
Send those costumes to Coventry.
Have you never heard of Purcell? Like colour catcher anthem, and very unflattering as well.
Coventry showed up in blue and pink.
Yeah, but it was like navy.
A lot
but
of their players look quite.
It was a washed out navy.
Who ate all the pies-ish.
And I'll tell you what it is, because myself and my friend who was with me, who was the other woman there, and also had a Canadian accent, which nobody else is going to necessarily pick up as a Canadian accent. They're just going to hear Seppo. But we did manage to offend and upset the people in front of us by just chatting shit about the costumes and saying that they're wrecking the lawn when they kicked pieces off it, which was then we kept it up. But one of the things, because we had a long conversation about this, because it was offending the people in front of us so much, it was just good crack. They had like the shitty pink stripes on their socks, which really cut them off at the leg, gave them cankles, was washed out look and made their arse look big. So Coventry City, if you're listening, I'm sure they all are. Sure they tune in every week.
Coventry City caused an upset by beating Fulham, who since we went, by the way, the Don have been promoted to the Premier League.
Who, Fulham?
Fulham have, yeah.
Well, good enough, because Coventry couldn't go in those outfits.
We then went to a place called the Egerton House Hotel, which serves a thing called a Vesper, which was great to give one to. It's one of those, as I call it, it's the only cocktail I've ever had, and that's saying something, given the fact that I've probably drank over 100,000 cocktails in my life, I'd suggest. It's the only cocktail in the world that equates to a Pan-galactic Gargle Blaster. Do you know what a Pan-galactic Gargle Blaster is?
Don't think so.
Well, have a listen to this.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says that the best drink in existence is the Pan-galactic Gargle Blaster, the effect of which is like having your brains smashed out with a slice of lemon, wrapped round a large gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best Pan-galactic Gargle Blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate. The man who invented this mind-pummeling drink also invented the wisest remark ever made, which was this: never drink more than 2 Pan-galactic Gargle Blasters unless you are a 30-ton mega-elephant with bronchial pneumonia. His name is Zaphod Beeblebrox, and we shall learn more of his wisdom later.
That was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where I first came across as a young boy the Pan-galactic Gargle Blaster. In the Egerton House, you get a Pan-galactic Gargle Blaster.
Sorry, before you go, can I just... have you ever had a death in the afternoon?
A cocktail?
Yeah.
No.
It's like the Hemingway champagne.
Okay.
So he invented it. It's a flute of champagne, iced champagne.
Yeah.
And,
one of his books was named Death in the
Yeah, that's why he named it that. But it was his thing. It was... you put in a flute of iced champagne and you drop in a measure of absinthe.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I haven't had one, so it's on my bucket list. Obviously, my bucket list is a list of drinks that I would like to drink and keep a bucket beside my bed afterwards.
Yeah. You never get people actually vomiting properly on television. We noticed this, right?
Yeah, actually, now you say that.
Like, you know, like anyone, like, you know the way lots of movies, so it's like, and they have whatever is in their mouth as actors. And it's usually, you know, but when we were in Liverpool, one of the downsides of Liverpool was it's kind of a city which is every night it's kind of full of drunken debauchery, which is no bad thing. But the following morning, there's an awful lot of
there'd be kebabs strewn across.
Pavement pizzas everywhere. Like, you know, you've got to avoid, and you know, but like when you have that full-on vomit, when you have that kind of alien-esque, and it just comes in, and all movies just go, and a guy runs to the toilet, goes, and he just throws up a little bit of brown water that he's put into his mouth.
But I want to see people really heave. I want to see bloodshot eyes. Like it's quite. I mean, I don't know. It depends on your gag reflex, and I don't have one, as you know. But like my kids wouldn't be real pukers either. Obviously, when they're babies, maybe, but they're not. Like it'd be very rare. And my daughter got sick a couple of weeks ago, and it's like if you know when you're not a puker, you rarely get sick. When it does happen, it's kind of, you're in shock as to how violent it is. And she was like, she's not a complainer. She's not a complainer. She's very kind of chill and mature, and she doesn't whinge about things. But she was really fucking shaken up. Like she was back to calling me mammy for a couple of days because she was so violently ill. But it's like so painful. And then you just see it on telly and it's like...
Except one movie did it really well, which was The Meaning of Life. with Mr. Creosote, the big fat guy, who came in and, started vomiting. But they had this, he was just hurling vomit, which was splashing everywhere, full of croutons, full of everything, and everything was getting covered in vomit, this whole restaurant. Yeah. But most filmmakers, they really make a dog's dinner of vomiting.
But the person should look like they're getting a punch in the gut.
Yeah, it should be the follow-up vom, which is often worse.
Yeah,
a bit like COVID.
But does that count? Like, sick?
I don't know. There's ropey strings that won't break, and it's in
your
hair.
Yeah.
It's in your hair and all that sort of stuff. You never get that properly.
And the sobbing afterwards.
Yeah, it's almost you're vomiting so hard you start crying.
Well, that moment where you can see it on someone's face if you're watching for it, because if you have a child that you think is going to get sick, you watch for it. If you do get sick, it's like under your tongue starts to water and get a metallic taste, and you go, "Oh fuck, I forgot. This is how I know I'm going to get sick. If this doesn't happen, I'm not going to get sick. Oh fuck,
anyway,
I'm going to get sick."
Before we turn our audience off completely, the movie makers could they're sick bastards. So we were in this place that does the Vesper. It's called the Egerton House. Thoroughly recommend it. It was fun bringing the Don there, who has a penchant for not knowing when to stop. When it comes
I have a
to
weakness for the
cocktails.
drop.
Yeah. I have an old weakness for the drop.
I'm fond of Long Island iced teas, and it's not because they're a particularly sophisticated drink.
She'd have a bad.
I do at, and when I go at it awful hard.
She'd go at it off. She'd have 5 or 6 Long Island iced teas of an evening, just to kind of, as a bit of an old sharpener, as she calls them. Anyway, the Don had...
She'll need to have the fry on for me in the morning.
The Don had the Vesper, and I said, I'd be very careful with these, because it's just pure alcohol, and it's very tasty and very potent. We then waddled out of that and went back to our hotel. Shout out to the hotel, St. Paul's Hotel.
Yeah, lovely little place.
Hammersmith. And when we got there, they had a whiskey bar.
But the Vesper got us just drunk enough to think it was a good idea to go back to the whiskey bar and order 2 flights of whiskey. Each flight had 5 in it. So we sat there and had 10 very generous whiskies on top of our Vesper, on top of all the wine we've been drinking all day. So that's what happened.
Let's just say we were a bit dusty the next day for the Fulham game. But then we came back and then we went to Liverpool. So Liverpool, as I was saying, is a bit of a mongrel city. It's like kind of... I like the vibe there. People are friendlier. They're a bit downtrodden. Like the rest of England hates them, kind of thing. And we like that about them, that the rest of England hates them, maybe, or something like that.
I've never thought that. It's just not something I'm aware of. I've never been under the impression the rest of England hates them. But there's definitely the northern thing, but particularly Liverpool, because you were there before me, but we had just been in London. Now, in fairness to London, which I've been to plenty of times and I enjoy, but also there's a cuntishness. Yeah. There is that kind of, even when people are being nice to you, you can see the, stupid Paddy. That's not there with Liverpool. Yeah. So there's simpatico. You feel at home, people are fucking sound. That matters.
And we stayed in the city centre, and it's a lot of great architecture. We then went on a guided walk with a Liverpoolian man.
He was great.
Very nice. And we had, amazing architecture. It feels like it's and also a very important city. Like, it was the second biggest city in England. The Liver building was one of the biggest buildings in Europe, and all this. Yeah. It's lots of the first theatre or something. Where Break a Leg came from. And John Wilkes Booth's dad set it up. John Wilkes Booth, the guy who assassinated Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln,
as we call him. And, a lot more bars and buzz than Dublin, although a little bit kind of vomity.
Yeah. So, I mean, also what I liked is people are lovely, but it's a small city, so it's much more manageable. So it's kind of, it's a bit like Dublin in that way, whereas I don't like too much sprawling. It's just too fucking overwhelming. But yeah, there's more on, but it's much, much younger. So it's half the population of Dublin. And you were going, but Dublin has a lot of major universities in it. So why is it? And what I think it is that we're priced out of Dublin.
We being?
Those who don't live within the city, unless you have a lot of money. It's very...
Which is nobody.
Well, that's it. That's the other thing. So they have people living above, because I was asking them, we were asking friends we were with and tour guides and that, because we were comparing it to Dublin, we're going, do people live upstairs from that pub and that shop and that, and it is inhabited, but also it's just not so fucking expensive. Whereas Dublin, it's almost like so much money has been pumped into it in the past 10 years, but normal people didn't really have much of a recovery from the recession. I live in the suburbs, in the outskirts, which wouldn't be particularly affluent, but you can't afford to go in.
Mm. Also, obviously you need to like the Beatles, because the Beatles are everywhere. We went to there's a Beatles sort of street, which is where the Cavern Club was, and has got all these Beatle-themed pubs, and where it's full of hen and stag nights colliding, lots of Irish bars and bouncers. The bouncers were quite nice. We went to a reasonably shit comedy club with a guy called Paul Smith who, was just phoning in drunk.
That was shit.
It was just a good weekend. And also 30 minutes flight from Dublin. I think I read somewhere it's the second biggest Irish population after Dublin, I think.
Yeah.
I read that somewhere. It probably doesn't feel right, like a fact, but a lot of Liverpool...
Like per capita, do you mean maybe?
No, like just how many people who claim to be Irish. There's a lot of, probably more Irish people in Liverpool than there are in Cork, which would be the... Anyway, I read that somewhere, probably isn't true. But Liverpool based a lot on Irish. A lot of Irish navvies would have worked there back in the day. It's only about, as I said, 36 minutes by plane, which would be about 200 miles.
That was kind of breathtaking because I came over, you were already there, I came over on my own. And like the girls are like, it's Ryanair, the girls are coming up with the trolleys, and she only gets up about 3 rows, and I'm just second row to the back, and I'm going to get cigarettes, and your man behind me gets cigarettes, and I'm going, fucking hurry up lad, his car's not working. I'm like, fucking find another one, because I know she's going to be sat down. She, like, we had no sooner taken off than the fucking pilot has us nose diving into the tarmac, like just fucking, I'm still picking out tarmac from my teeth and just going, yeah right, we're here, like you'd know it was fucking Ryanair. And that's another thing, and like those who are on my Facebook will have seen my issue with this. The screaming down the tannoy of the most nasally, common as muck young ones. And I just have a picture of Michael O'Leary in an office somewhere going, come on Chantal, more nasally, come on. Really scream at them every 2 minutes.
It's like,
Ryanair would like to announce today you're boarding a flight C63 to Alicante. All of you are told to get into line now like sheep ready for milking or cows ready for milking, and always make sure to wear your masks.
It's just this, whatever, they obviously picked the
but
worst.
They screamed down the tannoy.
Yeah.
Except the one chap that got on and said, whoever, John Smith, we have your daughter.
Yeah.
And then followed it up after a little brief pause with, please come to such and such to retrieve her.
But like Ryanair, like, I've always said this before about them, they're the one brand in the world where everyone hates them. I mean, they're a hated brand. They give you sort of very good value airfares, so you kind of like them for that. But they could be kinder. They could be more polite. We don't have to, have seat backs, and we can pay for everything, you pricks. But you just be a bit nicer. And as you said, stop fucking.
But it's their brand, right? Yeah. So, like, anytime if you look at Michael O'Leary, like sometimes he is.
Michael O'Leary is the CEO of Ryanair.
Sorry.
By the way, for our overseas listeners, we're very parochial today. Ryanair is the biggest airline in Europe. It is also a bucket carrier of swill. Cheap flights, but just a horrible, horrible experience.
But I mean, sometimes some of the things that come out over the years, remember when he said he was thinking of taking all the seats out and charging to go to. So I don't think that they're serious half the time, but what we have learned is that Michael O'Leary, his brand for Ryanair is fuck you and you'll like it. Yeah. And the thing is, we all despise him, but every last one of us, like €17 for a flight, we're on it. Nobody who can afford Aer Lingus, who the fuck do you think you are? So we're all going to pay for it, but we hate it. And I don't know if it's a social experiment or he just enjoys playing the villain and going, yeah, but you're still my little bitch, aren't you? Yeah. You're still my little bitch.
They've made air travel horrible. Air travel with Ryanair is a bit like going on a coach somewhere, like going on a Greyhound bus for Americans listening. It's like that bad. But, we probably went over and back to Liverpool for about €40 each. The taxi fare in Dublin to the airport is more expensive than the flight to Liverpool.
Yeah. No, it is. But like we did make a bit of money on the L duty free, which is great because I've been sitting here for years.
Don't say that too loud because it'll be all over.
No one here actually fucking listens to it.
Because Britain have left the European Union.
Get Brexit
now,
done.
When you go over back to England as an Irish person, or as a French person, or as anyone else who's in Europe, you can avail of cigarettes, for example, at €5 a pop. Booze at €10 cheaper.
Yeah, so. Look, I hate to mention the war, but the last episode we were on, you were just telling everyone how well you're doing off the smokes. How's that going for you now?
It's going okay. I mean, it's Don said that in a kind of a cynical.
No, I'm not trying to hang you. I'm not. No, I'm just saying let's integrity.
I've got to a point where I've put cigarettes in the same kind of category as smoking weed. So I like to have
Now he smokes weed every day.
Yeah. Now I'm on 20 joints a day. No, but like it's been an interesting journey. So I gave up cigarettes in January, cold turkey, and I gave up booze as well for the month, which helped. So if you're ever trying to give up cigarettes, give up booze at the same time because you will smoke if you're drunk. So, you know, after 6 weeks, I kind of got into the habit. I felt I was 54. It's getting a bit unsustainable.
Yeah.
And so I'm now probably smoking after a joint, or, you know, when I'm really hammered.
Bit of light one
yeah.
for me sort of thing.
Yeah, like the Dons for her. She's still puffing Billy.
Oh, God, yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's... One of the things I've noticed about giving up cigarettes is that there's this thing where as soon as you fall, as soon as you have a drag or one when you're out, people tend to go, oh, that's it, I'm back on them, and they just start smoking again. Whereas I think that there should be this kind of approach where, you know, you're going to go out, you may fall. Bridget Jones, actually, when Bridget Jones' diary came out, there was all this bit where she used to chart in her diary how many cigarettes she had, because she was always beating herself up, and she'd have one cigarette, and she was only give up cigarettes.
Right.
I remember that about the book. I mean, I don't particularly like the Bridget Jones series of books, but I remember that, and getting back up on the horse. Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
Don't smoke tomorrow. You know.
And I strongly feel that,
and
and we might be repeat ourselves because I can't remember what we said, but I remember we had this discussion, but it was at the other end of it when we had this discussion. You know, like you'd been off them a couple of weeks, cold turkey. I know you were kind of saying, I absolutely will smoke again. I know that. I need to get off them altogether, like get the nicotine out of the system. I'm a non-smoker, but my intention is, I'll smoke again, and that doesn't mean you're back on the smokes. Well, that's it. And I'm so interested in this because, like, I have a bit of an obsessive personality, and I'd be prone to vices, whereas you just like the grand things in life, but you're quite disciplined. So I do think it matters what personalities are like. And I think that most people who've ever smoked probably would love to be social smokers, but they go, but I can't because it's a slippery slope. So I'd love to be able to be that person who could have a smoke or two on a night out and then leave it go. You are actually incredibly disciplined with your stuff, so you probably could be. So I do think it's a case of try it on for size. You'll have weeks where you go, I'm actually losing the run of myself now. I need to rein that in. But it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I look at it is I probably smoked 95% less cigarettes in the first 4 months of 2022 than I have in any other year previous.
Yeah.
So
but if you went from like a standard smoker to smoking 5% of that, I think actually, from a health point of view, most people would probably be very happy with that, and they go, happy with that. It's just that they don't feel that they can sustain that.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's an interesting experiment to see if you can sustain that.
I'm conscious I'm sounding, as one of my friends says, that's the addiction talking, Shawnee. It's a bit of a fucking idiot thing to say, but anyway.
It's not, though. We're actually interested to see how this goes and to try it on.
He means it in a kind of funny way, but the issue is that it is an addiction, and I think people should just not beat themselves up just because they fail once or they go back. Get back on it. It's the best thing to do is to give up.
It's like when you break your diet, you may as well eat everything in sight for a month until you're ready to get on it.
Just do that. So, joking. All right, so, and speaking of girls, actually, the biggest problem I'm having, and I need the Don's input here, I don't know whether anyone else around the world is noticing the new fashion du jour, which is women walking round in tight Lululemon leggings with no panties on, and their pish flaps and contours of their vagina available to everybody to see, from whether you're a big fat chick in Liverpool or a skinny person or a mother and her daughter McCombo wandering around Liverpool with their tufts of whatever, it's just absolutely disgusting.
Sean, can I ask you, is what you were attempting to say that you went about in a quite indelicate manner, are you referring to flap couture?
I've never heard the phrase, but
that's my phrase for it. Flap couture. It's a fucking thing. Yeah. It's a fucking thing. Right,
girls, you're not impressing anyone.
When did we decide that we're all getting our flaps out and that was like...
Yeah. I don't know, it's just like it seems to be bigger in England, so to speak, than it is here.
No, right, so I've been thinking about this, right? But there was a definite issue, right? I realised that I dress like a toddler who accidentally ate someone's acid at 3 and has never aged up, and I still dress like that. So I'm in no fucking position. Yeah. But I was under the impression that we had a bit of a social contract that, like, put your flaps away.
Yeah.
But that has broken down, and I did a bit of research on this when you were asleep this morning. How it started was like, so leggings 15 years ago were in fashion, but it was always like a long top that's not quite a dress, but like you'd never wear leggings on their own. And then the odd fucking weirdo would wear leggings. You can't wear them as a fucking trouser, like they're see-through. But then Lululemon and brands like that came out with ones that were like quite expensive, and there was a lot of spandex in them and support. And what I'm seeing on TikTok all the time as well are ones that are not the most modest, but they change the shape of your arse. So now everyone is dying to wear the things that change the shape of your arse. But that's also made it socially acceptable to have every crevice on show.
Yeah.
So now you have people going into Primark or Pennies or whatever your fucking bargain basement cheap fast fashion thing is, with really see-through lycra, not even lycra, you know, that really shit material of, and now they've made
polyester.
Yeah, and now they've made, do you remember bicycle shorts in the 90s?
Yeah.
They've come back, which are basically leggings at the ugliest length. We're not even going to do capri length. We're going to do the length just before your knees to make you look fucking worse.
Like a sausage.
And now they have them in bright colours. Now, whatever about a pair of fucking Pennies leggings in black that you thought you could pull off without a long top, but now you're going to have them in bicycle shorts in fucking light pink.
Yeah.
It's going to show every ounce of cellulite. Like, forget a bikini wax. You need a fucking cervical wax if you're going to wear that.
So I remember, and I don't follow this that closely, Lululemon having a problem at one stage because some of, back in the day when they first came on the scene, that some of their leggings were a bit too see-through for gyms and for Pilates classes, and people were sort of vomiting a bit in their mouth when they'd see flaps and hairs protruding through, and that became a thing that Lululemon got into trouble for. However, today, women are just wandering out into the street with basically everything on show. And like, I don't know whether you think it's sexy or funny. And by the way, even women who have got great bodies, okay, who...
It's still fucking weird looking, isn't it?
It's still disgusting, all right? So I know women, for example, give out to men about putting their hands down their pants, and they're well entitled to that. Or the men who wander around because they didn't bring a belt out with them. So they think it's really cool to wander with their jeans at half-mast, showing off their fucking disgusting boxer shorts or underpants. But put your fucking trousers on, or put a fucking skirt over it, and hide your fucking growler, okay? We don't want to see your fucking minge leggings. I don't know whether you think you're sexy, or whether you think this is some sort of fucking feminist new thing. We burnt our bra and we're showing our fucking flaps. They're disgusting at the best of times. They look like an oyster, okay?
Excuse
We're
me.
very
They're lovely. They're just not for public consumption.
At some point, men need to fight back on this. Put a pair of fucking pants on, or wear a dress, all right? And stop showing off your minge to the world.
Well, I'm trying to address, right, because I know you have a strong opinion, and I certainly have a strong opinion, but I saw what I was looking at, and Liverpool, I'm sorry, you're very guilty of it, and I will say, many of those were Irish girls coming back on the fucking Ryanair.
Right.
And I thought about this, and I was like, it shocked you more than me. I think it's equally disgusting. But then I thought, right, I don't ever see that fashion walking around here where you live. It would turn my head, if I went to my local shops, which it'd be kind of lower middle class, it's alright, but it would turn your head and go, Jesus, what's your one wearing? Now, but if I went a bit further into Tala, which is like full on working class, if I went to this, my local shopping centre, which
doesn't make it any...
No, but it's much more normal
so
there.
What? It'll be on the streets
Then
of
I'm looking
Dublin, you know,
It
next
is,
year.
it is,
okay?
just not the nice streets.
No, the nice streets. It's not like a class thing. This is what women are going. There's also women in the affluent suburbs wandering around, having done their yoga and their Pilates, going for coffee, wearing their fucking snatch.
I have an
sleeve.
issue with the whole modesty culture thing, because
It's not about modesty.
No, but
it's
let
disgusting.
me speak.
Yeah.
I despise the idea of modesty. However, there is dignity in terms of a certain respect. Like, I think if you want to go off to a nudist beach, fire ahead. But we live in a society where we've decided that bit of manners, we have an understanding of what's nudity and what's not. And so this, like, I find this uncomfortable. And also, like, on a really hot day, right, obviously a woman can't go around and take her top off. Men go around and take the tops off. I find that distasteful. Now, if we're on a beach, I wouldn't mind. But when I don't care how hot it is, when you're walking down to the shops and it's a fucking housing estate, I would smack the head off my son if he had his top off. I'd like, put a fucking light jersey on. Like, it's just, there's a... And then where is the line? I don't know. But I do feel there's a social contract where it's like a bit of fucking manners. We've all agreed to be dressed. You know, if you want to go somewhere where it's suitable, like there should be nudist places, fine. But there's consent there. But as a society, there needs to be a certain amount of, we put our fucking genitals away.
We're living in what a lot of women call a rape culture, which I don't think we are, but a lot of women say we are. I think there's probably an awful lot less rape going on than there was maybe 10 years ago, and even 20 years ago when I was growing up. But let's say we are living in a rape culture. So is wandering around with your bits on display part of this sort of, you're not allowed to touch me, you better not touch me, which I totally agree with, by the way. But look, I'm going to do this and just wave it around. And, you know, if men walked around with their tackle on such public display, you know, where you can see everything, nothing left to the imagination, you can just see my lad just dangling and my old man nuts that drop, you know, you know, and I've got a pair of leggings. So supposedly I'm wearing my boxer briefs, except they go down to the end of my legs.
Well, the same thing though. Like, I would find it distasteful. Like, if blokes are wandering around with their fucking sack and you can see, like, and you're going to the shop with your kids, I would find it a bit disrespectful. There's modesty and there's like, yeah, but can you put your genitals away, in fairness? If we're not all consenting, can you please... There's a certain understanding. But to the rape culture thing, rape culture is a real thing.
Yeah.
While I know that you, in fairness, and I say this with no sarcasm, have been a bastion of like challenging things when it hasn't always been the easiest. But I would say, while I think this style is awful, it fucking offends me, it's disgusting. Not because they're body types, but just because it's just to, come on now, like dress yourself, like it's your fucking genitals on show. I won't go as far as that, because I think rape culture is the idea that has any...
Sure.
No, rape is own...
I said that when I said it. But like, tell me why 13 and 14-year-old girls are walking out with their parents, with their
my thought is...
snatch on display. Why is that happening?
There's a lot of cheap leggings that are shit quality and leave nothing to the imagination. And that's what the kids are wearing. That's what the teenagers are wearing to an extent. But I've noticed with TikTok and stuff, there's a lot of leggings that squish the fat up to your arse and give you a shape. And I think I don't think that young ones are wearing leggings at all for men. I do think that young ones are wearing leggings. Sometimes they're just wearing them because it's the fashion. But I do see a huge amount of young ones going, my arse looks really good here. And so they're showing off their figure, but that's actually more for other women. I don't think any woman with any vague sense of intelligence, if you want to attract men, leggings will never do it, no matter how much is on show, because men think in a certain way and it's not feminine enough. There's a display of the body, but it's about, I look good in these, my arse is good, I feel bad about lots of other things, but my arse looks really good in these. I don't care if it's a bit much, I'm wearing it out. I think that's what it is.
I have turkey neck balls that drive, because I'm old, I'm 54. But I've always had a reasonably good ass, right?
You do have a lovely ass.
But at no point in my life have I ever, apart from maybe buying a pair of jeans where my bum looked big in them, to coin a female phrase, you know, I never go, oh, you know, I really want to accentuate. I have to say it is sexual.
Oh, that's a women thing.
I have to say it is sexual. I'll give you the best example I can give, apart from the men who put their hands down their pants, which is disgusting, and a lot of men do that. Down their tracks bottoms, right? Especially out your way.
Yeah.
But there's also the Scotsman with no knickers on under his kilt. That's sexual, right? Whether you like it or not.
The Scottish thing.
Yeah, it is sexual. A man wearing a dress and having no underpants on is slightly sexualized.
I don't have an opinion, but expand on that for me.
Girls titter going, I wonder if he's wearing any pants.
Yeah, but
and they lift up the skirt and men flash their arse and they, you know, that's a thing with Scotsmen.
It certainly has become a thing.
Scotchmen.
With this new brave world, and like I also noticed, so a couple of years ago, Boohoo, which is a major cheap retailer that's purely online, and
like Wish.
It's not quite Wish, it's real kind of Penny's Primark, but cheaper again, and it's going out clothes, it's whatever, but like people of all styles will buy from it, but it's real fast fashion. But they advertised a bodysuit a couple of years ago. Now, a bodysuit, particularly for the gentlemen who aren't as well versed in ladies' apparel, bodysuits came into fashion a couple of years ago. They're literally just tops that are like swimming togs that go in because it's they tuck into your trousers. That's what bodysuits are. But they started advertising these ones where the leg the cutout of the leg is so high it's nearly at her ribs, and the bit in the middle looks like a thong on backwards, like she's like her clit's getting flossed. Yeah, and so like all of like the women on the internet kind of went, okay, boo, but where do my flaps go? And so it became a very famous meme. Where do my flaps go? But what I've noticed, because I've shopped the odd time on Boohoo going, I want it top to go under something, it's shite, but like if I want something quick. So they have me on the algorithm. That and all the other fashion, I'm non-stop seeing this thing of these bodysuits that have like fucking floss up the front. I'm going, not even, why would I think that looks good? How would I possibly wear?
Okay.
And now that got me thinking about vaginoplasty. Labiaplasty, I mean. Labiaplasty is like, you know, you get the downstairs furniture snipped and tucked because the beef curtains are hanging out. If you're an outie,
technical terms, these whole things.
If you're an outie where the inner labia are hanging out, that can be sometimes made fun of by men. Porn culture hasn't helped with that, or just like uneven or too fleshy or not fleshy enough is the new one. They're now getting Botox put into their fucking lips, and I'm sitting there going, girls, At what point do you go, like, these fuckers probably don't wash their arse every day, and we're going in there getting our fucking flaps chopped and injected and every which fucking thing. $4,500. And you know what? Local anaesthetic. They don't even put you out for it. So you're going to get fucking chopped. And how about we just wear long tops with our leggings and delete the problem?
We talk on this podcast a lot about bullshit, okay? And we talk a lot about hypocrisy, and we talk a lot about...
I tell you what, you can't get a scrotoplasty or a scrotal lift in Dublin. You have to go to the UK for it.
So I do need a scrotal lift. So
I like that though.
But here's the issue, in all seriousness. Put your fucking pants on, women, and stop behaving like fucking, like at some point, those girls go out of an evening together and not one of them is calling bullshit on the way that they're dressed. Not one.
Yeah.
They're all going, you look lovely, fucking whatever.
So,
and there's the fat chick who's wearing them is, because her friend is skinny and size 8, she's got a size 14 fucking vagioplasty flapping around in the wind. And like, at some point, it's on you girls to turn around and say, this is pathetic.
Like, I would phrase it differently. I think what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm not, but I would phrase it differently. Like, I was sitting out for a smoke in Liverpool there. You were in the hotel room. I came down for a smoke. And it was probably maybe 5:30, 6 in the evening. And it's like the main street. And there's these two gorgeous girls, like really well done up, stunning looking young ones. I had literally just gotten out of a nightie to come, like, throw on clothes to come downstairs. And this nightie that they were wearing was like silky and had less to it than what I was wearing privately. Yeah. These little shoes that from the 90s, these hellhole shoes that had no backs on them, like kitten heels.
And
I'm looking at them going, they looked stunning, but they were fucking freezing and they're like Bambi on ice. And I know that we all did it to some extent, but I'm kind of going, I'm seeing more women my age doing that. Because I did a deep dive on all the fucking surgery shit, the vagioplasty, the labiaplasty, and I knew when I came out of that website, out of interest, I knew I'm going to go back into Facebook now, and just so you remember, you're going to get shitloads of ads for everything that's wrong with you now for the next 6 weeks until they relearn your algorithm. And I already feel bad about myself. So far I've learned I need to freeze my fat. I need to do the endofat thing. I need to get Botox, but also not Botox, the anti-wrinkle stuff. I need to, like, it's just endless. I need to get laser everywhere. I need to, everything. Your lips need at least 3 mil non-stop at me. And I'm going, first of all, where would you get the money? And I'm kind of going, as women, right? I think we should be entitled to do whatever the fuck we like. Absolutely, yay us. Fuck anyone who doesn't like it. Wear whatever you want. But as women, the calling bullshit is what I'm at. At what point do we actually decide, okay, look, we went from heroin chic and from the early 2000s where, like, even Jessica Simpson and gorgeous people were being called fat because they were, size 8. Gorgeous. You dream of looking like them. And they were being fat shamed across every magazine. So we went from this anorexic thing to the Kardashian era where, oh, you have to be curvy, but not like that. Like this. Change everything about yourself. At what point do we all just have a fucking meeting downstairs in the pub and say, here's the thing. Do you know what we're going to bring back into fashion? Being a size 8 to 10, 10 to 12, eat pizza, drink wine, keep an eye on things, but we're not doing any of these fucking hit cardio shit. We're not doing bum lifts. We're not doing the fucking frozen face shit. How about we all just agree we're not going to do that? But that's on us as women to go, how about we just call bullshit on it because we're all contributing to it. And the thing is, fashion and like the look that's being pressed upon us is being led by internet now, which is democratized. So it's not just gay men in charge of fashion deciding that we should be waifs. It's us as influencers. We can decide what's in fashion. Could we women not just all decide, listen, let's all strive to be a size 10 that eats pizza instead of a fucking size 2 with an arse out to here, a face that never moves, and a vagina that looks like a Barbie. Like, why are we doing this? Men won't fucking notice.
The problem we're having is in the last podcast we had, you want equality and you want to be treated similar
men
to men.
aren't causing this.
Hang on a second. And I'm saying this to women. If you want a fourth wave, I'm a feminist, okay? Yeah. It's like J-Lo appearing at the Super Bowl 2 years ago with all these kids wearing fucking lingerie, going out dancing. You're running yourselves down. You're making yourselves look like bimbos and thick, okay? And also, if your fat size 12 friend is putting on a pair of fucking spandex to go out to a club with her fucking layers of fat rolling through herself while she's dancing, where does the sister go and say, listen, honey.
I mean, they do ask. The answer is simple as, I don't think that's as nice on you as the dress you had on last week was lovely. That was like fabulous on your shape. I don't think that's as good on you.
But we
you don't have to be a cunt, but tell the truth.
That's what I'm saying. We have a situation here where it's easy to rant about it, but no one's doing anything about it. And by the way, if men were behind this, we'd never hear the fucking end of it. Okay?
Yeah, no, but I actually think
I
actually think for the first time in history, the porn industry aside, which does have an impact, first time in history, men are not behind this. But for the first time in history, it is young women who are making money off the internet now. So we are setting our own trends, and it's great that there's a lot more body positivity, there's a lot more mid-size fashion stuff, which is nice to see, because they're not fucking unhealthy or obese, but they're just like normal size people who make the most of themselves and have a fucking, they teach the rest of us how to dress. Like, there's so much of that, but yet we have never been more, here's everything that's wrong with you that you can fix. And I'm kind of going, just don't buy, like, and I know it's easier said than done. Like, don't buy into it. But I've never met a man who would notice half the shit we do to ourselves.
But I would say this, I see so much aggro from women towards men, and nothing from women to other women about walking around looking like a fucking slag. That girl you talked about walking down Liverpool, it was 2 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
No, that was like 5 p.m.
No, okay, there was another one who was doddering down late at night behind her friend, and they were wearing hardly any clothes. It was cold. They didn't have jackets, okay? And I sound like an old man here, but I also sound like a father. Thank fuck I'm not a father. Best thing I ever did, I was watching this guy. Thank God I don't have children, because this girl was maybe 17, 18, and she was tottering down Liverpool's main street with all the pavement pizzas and the vomit after a night. And she needs to be able to walk down that naked, right?
Yeah.
But she also shouldn't be walking down it wearing a tiny mini skirt and tittering on her heels and falling down drunk, because something bad is likely to happen.
I find myself violently disagreeing with you, and then kind of going, okay, I see where you're getting at. Where I can see it as, so my child's nearly 12 and she's not the most girly, but like, let's say she suddenly was like that, and I'm kind of going, I'm feminist, and she's like 16 or 17 and she suddenly got a bit of a figure on her, and I'm kind of going, I want you to be able to, or if she's 14 or 15 and suddenly gets quite feminine, has a figure on her, I don't want to teach her that she should always be able to wear whatever she wants, and that is, she is not in any way contributing to rape culture, and I won't have it said that she's contributing to rape culture. However, as a mother, at what point do I set aside my feminism and go, she's not ready for the attention that she's going to elicit dressed like this, and it shouldn't be that way, but I am her mother. And at what point do your principles need to set aside and you take care of your child? It's one of these conversations that's become really polarised and black and white, and you're either a bigot or you're a fucking far left. If it was my child and I felt, I know she feels good about herself, she's going to a disco, she's 14, she's filled out a bit, and she does look great. She looks way too old for her age, and she's not. She should be able to go out like that, and I hate what I'm teaching her, but the fact is, this is my child, and she is not mature enough for the reaction she's going to get, and I want to protect her from that.
And lots of girls
but we're not allowed to have, there's no nuance in the conversation anymore, and that's nuance, and I'm not sure where I should land on it, but that's a recognisable nuance. And I think when you ranted, it makes it sound really different, but is that the nuance you're getting at? I
think so. I mean, I think that the thing I would say to you, again, thank God I don't have children, is that you as a mother have to be very careful about that, because the more you kind of say stuff like that, the more likely your teenage girl is going to go, fuck you, mum, I'm go out wearing a pair of panties, right? Just to spite you. And something bad will happen to her. And now, something bad will happen to her that shouldn't happen to her. She should be able to go out wearing panties, because men
I will point out the last very bad thing happened to me. I was wearing a knee-length dress.
Yeah, and also, there's a lawyer somewhere who's waiting to dangle her lack of panties in front of a jury if anything's...
Oh, they'll always find a reason. I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, okay. Like, if you think about the trans issue, if you think about Black Lives Matter, there needs to be a sign from women to go, girls, put a fucking pair of pants on. Because this is not good. It's not good for women, and it's not good for society. So,
whilst I can't stand most feminists nowadays, unfortunately, I will not give up calling myself a feminist. I am a feminist, and I feel that very strongly. Some of the fucking radical identity politics shit I have an issue with, but I still feel strongly about feminism. And one thing that I've been struggling with is that, like, bearing in mind we come from Ireland and we have similar views in terms of, like, the fucking Catholic shit that we had. So I am so thrilled to get rid of the notion of sluts, and that for me, I think sex positivity is great, But what I've started to see in the past couple of years doesn't feel like sex positivity to me. And again, I'm spouting, and I don't want to be an L one, I'm spouting my opinion. But I have had a pretty vast experience of these issues. And for me, sex positivity should be about, you can wear what you want. Yeah. But why are you wearing it? Mm-hmm. You can sleep with who you want, but are you comfortable sleeping with them? Just because he'll sleep with you, and just because he doesn't force you, is everything okay there? Without script, and I suppose what I'm at is that I feel like the sex positivity has been pushed not too far, but it's been pushed to a point where we're so kind of hell bent on that I'm not seeing conversations about. We say buzzwords like enthusiastic consent, but I'm not seeing conversations like both of my children. I don't care what they do in their lives. I hope they're safe. Yeah. I hope they're well. I hope they're in good company. So I don't have any moral value that, you should be in a long-term relationship. Or I don't have any of that. It's almost like I don't wish to put any moralism back into gender, sex, how we present, but concern for, are you okay? And check in. Like when I saw those two girls going down the street, the fact is there were a group of lads, and there was another two girls behind them who looked very similar, same makeup, stunning as well, happened to be wearing more clothes, but very fashionable. The lads didn't look at them twice. The lads looked at what was naked and walking down the street.
And she knows that.
But no, I don't know. They were very young. But I looked at it and I went, what's the difference here? Right, so what we seem to be leaning into as sexy, and we're calling it powerful, seems to be this visual vulnerability. Doc Martens and a crop top and jeans wasn't getting a look. We're leaning into the shoes we can't walk in, we can't run away in, the jacket we don't have with pockets for the shit we need to look at as women. Not only what kind of horrible standards are we perpetuating, for to be honest, most men don't fucking notice all the shit we do. Just mind yourself a bit and you do grand. Like, men don't care. So why are we tolerating this and perpetuating this for fucking capitalism's sake? But then also, have we gone so far into trying to remove moralism from sex that we have forgotten to teach our daughter and our little sisters lessons about, are you okay in that though? Like, what you want to do is okay, as long as you're comfortable. But like, let's step back and have a look. Do you think that's a wise decision? Do you think that's about impressing people? It's about showing off? I think you'll regret that in a couple of years. I'm not judging you, but I don't think that's a good choice. Like, we're not allowed to have those conversations anymore, and that seems to veer into sex shaming and this old-fashioned thing. We need to have space for the older sisters and the mothers going, look.
I'm talking about wearing a seatbelt, okay? I'm talking about those girls walking down with no clothes on at 2 a.m. drunk should be allowed to do that. But if there's a man who's going to walk up to them in their drunken state at 2 a.m. in Liverpool, what sort of a man is going to be walking up to that girl? What sort of a man is going to be in the shadows going, look at that. That's the herd of wildebeest. There's a couple of weak moths. I'm not condoning men, or nor am I condoning that she shouldn't be dressed that way. I'm talking about wear a seatbelt. Bring a coat out. If you want to go to a nightclub and dance,
the wear a seatbelt thing, it just makes me really uncomfortable. But it's I hate what you're saying, but I'm also like, keep going. Try and put it in a different way. If my daughter's 18 and she's outside Copperface Jack's, and I know there's a gang of lads that are up to no good and have had too many drinks and are misogynistic, do I want my daughter to be in the group of 3 girls that are wearing jeans, Doc Martens and a crop top and their makeup is lovely, or the girls that are wearing a little slip and shoes they can't run away in? Of course I want her to be in the... that's the reality. I hate that. I do want her to be in the Doc Martens and the top and the little crop top, whatever.
I'm being deliberately provocative here.
I know you are, but I think a message is being lost.
Here's my issue. And it's nothing to do with men. And you girls need to sit down and have a chat with yourself.
We are failing. We are failing how we're bringing up daughters and sisters.
Advertising is involved here and whatever and whatever.
We're failing to address porn culture. We're failing to address the male gaze, which is not about necessarily attacking men, but saying, what are we going to do? Because we have a lot more power than we realise. It's like that virtue signalling, far left shit. So much that we're forgetting to protect our daughters. And not that they should of course you should be safe. We're so busy trying to be accepting of everything. Like, I would hope to be, with younger women, I would hope they know I'm never judging them. I'm not looking down on them, but if I'm looking out for them. So I'm going to ask them a question and go, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that bloke? Because I'm looking out for you, not because I'm judging it. But it's become so much that if you even ask the question looking out for it, you're judging them and therefore you're a bigot, so you don't. So we're failing girls.
Yeah, I looked into this as well, just from my own disgust at it, actually. I find it disgusting, to be honest, that women devalue themselves to that degree or degrade themselves to that degree. But whatever, that's what they want to do. The other point I was trying to do in my head was to try and come up with a positive reason why they might do this, okay? And I was trying to remove my kind of middle-aged disgust and go, right, why would they be doing this? So one of the things I came up with was, there is a kind of a protest going on here. So there is this sort of theory that women could be displaying themselves to such a degree of almost semi-soft pornography to show that we should be allowed walk the streets with our
like
vaginas out without getting any shit from men.
Yeah.
And at 2 a.m. Now, I don't see that movement.
Well, there was
but that
so
could
there was
be a
the
thing
slut
that's
walks.
that could be a thing that's behind the scenes here, or even subconsciously behind the scenes. Because I'm not here trying to say, you know, like one of my 55-year-old men going, this is disgusting in kids these days. I'm looking at more as a cultural phenomenon. And why is it happening? And I hear you, but like, why is it happening?
Well, I was all, there were the slut walks, which the reclaimed
walk of
night
shame,
and that. So, and I'd be all over those. I'd be like, I tend to dress quite modestly in general, but like fucking wacky as fuck. But that's a personal choice. It's not what I think people ought to do. I'm just not comfortable with too much out. That's me. But I would personally be out there in a fucking bikini for a slut walk because I'm all about that. To be honest, I would bet 100 houses that's not what it's about for anyone.
A walk of shame is almost a badge of honour.
The stride of pride.
Yeah, exactly, because you know that bird has been out the night before.
Yeah,
coming home. Fair play to her.
No, but you know
this is different.
No, that's not what it is. The slut walk was when protests where everyone dressed as trampy as they could. As the slut walk was the reclaim the night thing where you dress like streetwalkers, dress as trampy as you can. There's 100,000 of you and walk the nights and make the point that we should be able to walk like this. Get your tits out if you want. We're walking like this. What are you going to do about it? Like, I would be the last person to want to get her tits out.
Maybe there's a bit of that going on.
No, but I'd get my tits out for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd love to say that the over kind of sexualization that's in fashion at the moment and the kind of getting it all out, I'd love to say that was actually a reclaiming and a saying we should dress how we like and it's time for you to change. I would love to say that's the case. The problem is, I can tell you I'm 100% sure it's not.
Right.
And that's my problem.
Bra burning, is a good example here, because in the 70s and late 60s, burning your bra was a kind of a very vivid sign. And then, of course, what you're left with is droopy tits, that don't look very good. So, you know, for all the crunchy kind of ride-on feminists that burnt their bras, they're still wearing bras today, because bras are a bit like, you know, I just talked about my turkey neck balls. Like, I quite like to have a pair of boxers that sort of holds them and doesn't let them dangle down around my ankles, or down my knees.
From an ergonomic point of view, that's actually quite enjoyable.
And then, of course, after, in the 80s, you know, this whole kind of Hello Boys company, Wonder Bra. You know, the whole the Wonder Bra had an empowerment to it that was kind of like, it was a very kind of confident woman. It was almost a bit, you know, Kylie swinging on her big balls.
Do you know what feels different to me? And it's like, I'm interested in the hypocrisy here. What feels different to me is the idea of, like, maybe you want to be attractive, and if you actually want to be attracted to the opposite sex, you probably have a push-up bra and a dress that's got a
plunging neckline.
A neckline that works with the push-up bra on you, and it looks great. Fine, far ahead. And I don't worry about that. That's quite sexualized, but it doesn't have the same vulnerability to it. It's the fact that I'm working set in my head. Why does that, to me, I wouldn't think twice and go, she'd want to have a word with herself. I'd be like, yeah, good for you, grand, daddy, yeah, your tits do look great. And that bra really made the dress grand. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look a bit sexy sometimes. It's the normalization of a really vulnerable vision of sex. And it seems so porn-fueled that, the more free you are, the better. And like, freedom seems to look like 18-year-old girls all thinking that if you don't want to be choked, then you're a bad lay. If you don't want anal, you're a bad lay. Like, this sexual freedom, I'm not sure how well it's gone for us. I'm like, could the women maybe, but like the women who try to have a chat with it are seen as old feminists, are seen as bigots, are seen as, you know, they're the worst of us, the TERFs, you know, but I kind of feel like, Could women all circle back for
I
a minute?
agree.
Because the internet has taken off massively in the past 15 years that we have it in our pocket at all times. It's changed us so much. Could we circle back and check, see how much we've been manipulated? Is this all good for us?
Anyone who's listening, we there's 10,000 of you listen to the average episode now at this stage. Any of you want to send a note, comment on it? It's the sort of show we could come back to, because I know I sound like a stick in the mud, and I know I sound like a misogynist, which I'm not. I'm actually just going. One of the things women are good at doing is organising for their bed, and then they let themselves down in other areas, and this is what they're really letting themselves down in. And I
have a really strong overall feeling around sex positivity, around fashion, which is so woman-led now, where it never was. It was always male-led. Women are leading fashion now. Around all of those areas, are we being manipulated and fucking ourselves over? And at the same time, I know that I don't for a minute ever want every other woman to decide that what I think is okay sexually is what she should do. How I dress is how I'm not doing that. But there's a culture here where we are rah-rahing this corporate feminism and going, yay, freedom, while people are rubbing their hands. And those people are people who don't give a shit about women, the porn industry and the abuse that's going on in there and what's happening to kids. I'm going, at what point do we call bullshit?
Yeah, and I
don't know where that point
you
is.
have a huge male bunch of allies behind you on this.
Yeah.
I remember talking about Singapore.
But they're told to shut the fuck up, and I don't blame you shutting up if you go, look, because I'm fine, I will.
That's why I'm coming out with quite a bit of gusto today. I mean, I lived in Singapore. We've got quite a lot of listeners also in Singapore. And Singapore gets a bad rap for chewing gum, and you certainly don't want to do drugs there. You might get the rattan cane, which is apparently worse than death. But I always used to say about Singapore when I first went there in 96 that a woman of any shape, size, race or creed could walk down Orchard Road, which is the main shopping drive, which you've been to,
Nothing will happen.
naked at 2 a.m, and no one will touch her. However, the women in Singapore don't tend to walk down the streets at 2 a.m. with nothing on or hardly anything on. I mean, they'll go out clubbing and stuff like that, but this is what I'm talking about. They don't do that because they're afraid they're going to get attacked. They do that because they have a certain sense of modicum of respect for themselves.
I mean, I want to be quite clear here. Male violence, and specifically sexual violence, is absolutely nothing to do with how people dress.
I agree.
It has happened from Kingdom Come, and a slight... I know I predicted there'd be a lot of sexual violence in the war in Ukraine, and people were very upset that women weren't suffering enough. I hope you're happy now. Happy now?
Yeah.
Now that we know that women are being raped in front of their children are being raped. Happy now?
Yeah.
So we know that rape...
that big a prediction happens in every
Yeah, it happens in every war. So, but rape is... Because I want to make that correct, because it could be gleaned from what you're saying, and that's not it. Rape is never caused by how women are dressed. However, the fact is, if it's in the air, if there's rape in the air and there's trouble, you do have a bit more of a target on your tits when they're out.
That's all I'm saying. And I want
to make it really clear, they're not causing it.
You also have a lawyer waiting in the wings to use that as his primary defence against the fuckwit.
I can promise you, there's so much to go on with that. That's the fucking least. They will always find something.
Speaking of the war in the Ukraine, which is still raging, of course, and it's funny the kind of, what do you call it, sort of soundbite culture. It's kind of like, oh yeah, war is just tipping away, and it's like, Zelensky's running around going, who else will listen to me? But I thought about this, and I thought, what would have been funny would have been if Putin had invaded Serbia. Mm-hmm. So Serbia, the Serbian troops were probably the last perpetrators of major genocide in Europe in the mid-90s in Bosnia, Herzegovina. Is it
Herzegovina.
Bosnia-Herzegovina. Just call yourselves Bosnia, for fuck's sake.
You're
very powerful country on the Scrabble board, though. But if he come into Belgrade and blown the shit up and was killing Serbs, would we all be going, oh wait, you're Serbs? Would we all be welcoming them out of Serbia into wherever? They'd be queuing up outside the borders into Bosnia, and the Muslims in Bosnia would go, really, you want us to look after you now, do you? kind of thing.
I don't know.
I'm not equating Ukrainians with Serbs who, Serbs, white South Africans, and I'm afraid, Israelis were the three countries in my travels that I just never wanted to go back to.
It's a reasonable question.
Russians. Yeah.
It's a reasonable question. However, and this is a bit of an awkward one. You're going, okay, so what's so different
I'm glad
about
these countries aren't full of black people.
What's so different about Serbia to Ukraine?
I don't know enough about Ukraine.
In terms of why we
Serbia.
would wet our knickers and go, come on in, we love you. You know, not like
Well, okay,
those terrible Muslims when they have bad things happen to them, fuck them. But when you do, let's stop the world.
Ukraine didn't kill 30,000 Belarusians and try and take it over. Ukraine didn't go into Poland and try and bomb it into shit. Ukraine didn't line up Czech
but if we're talking about people,
Republican men and shoot them in the back of the head. Serbia did all of that.
No, I know that's politically speaking. But if we're talking about people, we're talking about culturally.
Yeah.
What's so different about Serbs to Ukrainians?
Okay, so then you're going, well, there's only a mindless.
We've had certain countries that we know have been fucked over, but we just don't seem to give a shit because they're too brown, too far away, too Muslim.
Yeah.
So what is it that's so attractive about Ukrainians that's so much better than Serbians? Like, to your point of, do you think we would have welcomed Serbians in if the shoe had been on that foot? I don't think people would look at what your country did so much as whether we see ourselves in them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a rude awakening then when you find out, oh, but they don't hold the same values as me. Oh, now I don't want to host you anymore.
Well, people gave Germany an awful lot of shit about, and like kind shit. Like we go, Germany, okay, it was a long time ago. You don't have to keep wearing the hair shirt about what happened in the Nazi times. But the German people wear the hair shirt on purpose because they're so fucking ashamed of what they did. The Serbs, no fucking chance. The Serbs actually, to this day, Bosnia is likely to kick off again because of Serbs and Republic Srpska in there. They feel they still want that country back. And when you go to Serbia and you go, oh, it's not all Serbs, you know, it's a bit like not all black people, not all whites, not all Irish, not all men, not all this. It isn't all Serbs, but the Serb mentality is racist to fuck. It's anti-Muslim.
As against Ukrainian.
No, because we said this on the last podcast. Go anywhere behind the Eastern Bloc and include Greece and a few others in there, and you get absolute suede-headed, knacker, racist, tattooed males.
Deeply homophobic.
Everywhere you fuck, deeply homophobic. Everywhere you look and go, and you know where the epicenter is? Somewhere in the heart of Russia.
Yeah.
Okay? So that is the sort of people we're dealing with here.
So, do you see my point, though? If we can overlook all that...
Yeah.
For one set.
Well, you have to overlook all that because actually a small 5-year-old boy and his mother
of course,
are
absolutely.
probably not out, you know.
So, but what makes you think that we wouldn't overlook all that if it was Serbia?
No, I think it would be funny if it was Serbia. I think it would be kind of nice if Serbs were on wagon trains out of their fucking hellhole country, pleading with Bosnian Muslims to put them up. You know, pleading with Croatia to say, sorry about all the fucking war we caused. And yeah, there were lots of wars. Kosovo, you know.
I stopped short at funny because I'm not a monster, but I see your point.
Slovenia, all of that fracture, you know, was... The Serbs would be going, you know, don't blame us for everything. Yeah, we do blame Serbia for nearly everything. And by the way, when you go to Serbia, it is the most rancid. Belgrade is full of people going, aren't we a nice people? Aren't we nice? The Germans didn't do that. The Germans sat there and said, please like us again. Please forgive us for what we did. The Serbs, like that was, all I'm saying, it'd be kind of funny. You go into Serbia, the Serbs would probably roll out the red carpet for Putin coming back.
Yeah, but the Germans, you could just argue that, like, so the Germans are the organisers. They just, like, they will send you really nice supermarkets. We'll organise things really well. We'll sort out the EU because we'll be the grown-ups. We organise everything really well. We're the Marie Kondo of Europe. Get rid of everything that doesn't spark joy. Oh! Sorry, well, I couldn't help myself. That's a
yeah. There's the hashtag too soon meme is from whatever the German version that is probably used a lot.
No, I'm sorry. I would like to apologise for that because that was hashtag too soon, but it was also too tempting.
You know, this is the point. You know, Afghanistan is still in deep shit. There's hunger and inequality growing. All of these countries, Libya, etc.
I saw today globally, and obviously it's going to be much worse amongst the poor. But globally, they're expecting a 37% hike in food cost. Mm-hmm. Massively. Like Middle Eastern countries are going to be fucked. African countries are going to be fucked. We're all depending on Ukraine.
Yeah, it's wheat and
Belarus.
Meanwhile, fuel prices are going through the roof and the world's inequality is going to grow.
Yeah. It's you didn't think that when all the COVID shit went away, suddenly there's something else where you're kind of like, the world is fucked. One thing, actually, it's not like me to praise I won't praise the Green Party because I doubt that they were in charge of it, but it's not like me to praise the cabbage. It's not like me to praise the cabbage munchers in Ireland purely because they're hypocrites and they don't tend to do anything good. Something I've seen is in a couple of weeks in Ireland they're going to slash all public transport by 20%. And I went, great, good, because I don't want to constantly bitch about the tax on this and the tax on that, but there is a reality of like you're kind of going, well, there's an awful lot of retrofit your homes, just get this, and you're going like, sorry, some people are poor. Like, people have to eat, people have to feed their kids. So I see a nuance there, but I love to see when there's something proactive. And I know this is kind of parochial, but it's kind of relevant for every country. How do we get people out of cars? How do we get them into public transport? In Ireland specifically, we'll make it fucking better for a start. But what I noticed is they've slashed it by 20%. And then I got thinking about this. And I remember when I was in school and people were in secondary school or going to college, there was like an annual pass. So I looked it up.
Bus pass, right?
Yeah, well, there's different ones. I looked it up. Sorry if this is parochial, but I think it'll be of use everywhere else. But I'm just going to go with Dublin. This is what I know. So the annual pass for Dublin City bus only is 1,150. For everything, for all public transport, the annual pass is 1,550.
Jesus.
That's too much.
Yeah.
And you're an ad man, so think about what would be the best thing if somebody had paid a fair bit per month or per annum for a pass, such that they don't want to go to waste, that they'd be inclined to leave the car behind going, I'm after paying for this, but that it's affordable enough that people go for it because it's really good value. You need something that people have invested in a subscription and they want their money's worth, but that it's affordable and doable.
I think we're moving towards free travel. I mean, we have to move towards free travel. Free transport is the sort of domain of the very poor countries and the very rich countries, because the very rich countries can afford it, and I think that's what we're moving down that track. Anything else?
When it comes to saving the planet, I also had another little tidbit that I came across, which is just a light-hearted sidebar, but PETA, you're familiar with, I'm sure most people are.
What does PETA stand for?
What is it? People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. But they're obviously they put down animals in their shelters and shit, and they're like, basically it's all the really fucking angry vegans with like piercings and PETA aren't
a bit like feminists.
Yeah, but PETA aren't great. They're not a great organisation, to be fair. But no, their protesters have been at it again. They went into the headquarters of Starbucks, which is in Seattle, and they glued their hands to the counter, super glued. And then this one who was taking it, to the fucking dose. She starts shouting on her fucking live feed for solid 2 hours. But so they ended up having to call the police department, the fire department. You can find it if you Google it, PETA Starbucks protest. But basically it was the fact that dairy milk was cheaper, and so there's an upcharge on other milk. But I mean, there is more labour that goes into milking all of those almonds in so there is that.
Yeah.
And also the American dairy industry is backed. But so that was what they were protesting. So she superglued herself and her mate, superglued their hands to the counter. And I'm sitting there watching this the whole time, and then I had to do a deep dive. I'm like, will they have to will the fire department have to cut off a bit of the counter? And also, violently American of you to do something that you may need to have to pay for healthcare for after the fact.
But it's interesting because, even with the inflation going mad for the first time in 40 years in all the countries, we still reach for, we need to stop the carbon tax because it's a tax on the poor. We need to stop this because it's people want to eat meat, people want to drive cars. This is what's causing the problem, okay? And we can blame... We can blame big industry, which is absolutely valid. We can blame the Shells and BPs of this world for digging. We can blame Russia. We can blame the fracking industry. We can blame everything. But unless we change, all of those companies are making things that we buy and we think are very important. We talked about Ukraine. The uptick of that should be almost coronavirus. It should be like the way we broke down the 5-year wait to get a vaccine, and a lot of people disagree with this, but we needed it as an emergency. We need to break through using this war as a way of saying we need within a year to get Germany's billion a week sorted out from somewhere else, and preferably not fossil fuel. Yeah.
But the problem is when you're so poor, especially now with inflation going the way it is, like certain households, you've got kids, the point comes you can't give a shit about the planet. You're trying to get fucking food on the table in your child's school. So we have to have nuance there, and we certainly have to hold big business into account. You're being taken for a fucking fool by capitalism. They're rah-rahing the left or whatever ideologue there is. They're rah-rahing you. They're taking the piss out of you. There's a lot of greenwashing going on. By greenwashing, I mean a company like Starbucks saying we're going to have paper straws, but we're also going to continue to pass on that the dairy industry is that kind of shit. Like we're being manipulated, and I hate to sound like a fucking yellow vester.
We are.
But we need to kind of wise up and stop with the bullshit. Cut the shite.
Here's where we're at. Something needs to be done. And this is why we also love Greta Thunberg. I think she's great. But, if you really followed what Greta Thunberg is saying, you'd hate her. Because she's advocating that we shut down cars. We shut down fuel. And we need to do that. This is why I've said we're never going to do it.
I respect her because I know I couldn't fucking cope with her.
Because capitalism and the great unwashed agree with each other on the fact that it's better off to burn the planet so that my kid can get to school than it is for hardship.
But I suppose that's why I was so interested. Like, it's not groundbreaking that the Irish public transport is being slashed. Show how you're going to make sure that people can afford to take the bus, and show some leadership when you're going to ask from people who don't have. And I think that's important.
The great unwashed don't understand, because they're a bit thick, that the world will not be there for their grandchildren or kids.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, that's
I think they don't
likely.
care. They don't have the privilege of caring.
The poorest person in Dublin, is substantially more well off than the poorest person in many African countries.
Do you think we have food poverty in Dublin?
Yes, we do. But we also have people who are walking around with flies in their eyes and bloated stomachs who have no food. Okay, so the people who've got food poverty usually have a television and a phone. Of course, there's poverty.
But how much of poverty in Ireland have you been up close to?
Very little. I've been up close to poverty in India, in China. I've also been up close to poverty in Ireland in the 70s before you were born, in the 80s, where it was 10 times worse than today.
Well, it's different. What I'm getting at is I think that not enough... Poverty is still poverty. A hungry belly is still hungry. Yeah. But how it works... But I think we don't have enough people in writing of policies and designing this stuff who actually understand the nuances within each city, within each country, culturally. What does poverty in 2022 look like? There's different levels of it. What does it look like? Because when you understand it, rather than just realise that it's there and respect that it's there and have a great time for those people and want to do well for them, but really understanding it. If you haven't lived poverty, if you haven't worked very closely with poverty, and that impacts stuff like climate change, what's doable? Because we do have to balance out making sure that children are warm, children are fed. When people are desperate, they're not going to have as much to give, and you need to understand how can you eat, how can you work around their desperation so we can still have a good outcome. But not everyone, it's not an even scale.
If there's 200 odd countries in the world and each one is a capital city, you want to talk poverty? Dublin is probably in the 180s to 200.
I'd well believe it, yeah. So
there's 120 or 40 other cities where there's worse poverty by a stretch.
My argument is not to suggest that we have the worst poverty, but it's about how do we... You need to understand what how that poverty works.
My argument is everyone here is bitching about the fact that I have to drive my kids to school. I only get 200 a week. I only get this. Yes, people are on $2 a day or less who have no... Right? And
there's also a further point there.
What the world needs to do, okay, and this applies to climate, it applies to fuel... And it's not about, like, there's some countries, I think Denmark, where we're going in July, where public transport is already free for every citizen. We need to understand that even the poorest person in this country is in the top 1%.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not,
I know, but in terms of how do you solve the problem, and saying other people have it worse doesn't solve the problem. And I'm not for a minute suggesting that the poorest of the poor in Dublin are as poor as they are elsewhere. I'm not. But it does come down to you, but you need to understand the hows and the whys. When you start telling people that you're shitting on, that you're not helping at all, we all have to do our bit. But when your bit costs you so much that you can't really afford and it's being pissed against the wind, you can understand why people don't. And that's not my argument to say, well, when the government do the right thing, when big business do the right thing, then we'll start doing the right thing.
So anyway, we'll never crack that. What's the... Anything else before we go? Oh, today's... No, today's not. Yes,
today is 5:20. Now, we had actually intended on doing the podcast yesterday.
That's 4:21.
Which was 4:20. Oh, yeah, shit, sorry. No,
You're
thick
being
bitch
American
today.
there.
Thick bitch. No, I'm getting confused because it's in American. Today is 4/21.
Yeah.
Meaning yesterday was 4/20, which was the day we intend on recording the podcast.
Not
But
too baked.
we were celebrating 4/20, so we didn't. And you were asking me to look up what the history of 4/20
Yeah,
is.
I thought it was from
So
sort of
for anyone
San
who
Francisco,
doesn't know, when people
yeah.
say 4/20, it's like the time to spark up a doobie,
Yeah.
smoke a bit of the ganj, that kind of thing. So
Does
4/20
it
in
come
the
from San
afternoon.
Francisco?
So where it actually comes from is San Rafael High School in California in 1971. So what happened, and I love this story because basically 5 friends arranged to meet to smoke at 4:20. Now there was no significance to 4:20. The reason was it was just the after school extracurricular activities were ended at that time. 4:20, we'll meet there, we'll fucking light up a doobie, grant. So these 5 lads that said they do that. And then it became a fucking thing. So then it was an inside joke. 4:20 meant will we have a spliff. And then, so years later, one of these 5 lads got a job working as a roadie for the bassist for Grateful Dead. Then he managed to make it become a thing. I love this. It's like, when you have a phrase, it became a thing. So by 1990s, Grateful Dead fans were passing out flyers inviting people to celebrate 4/20, which had become a thing, it was a bullshit thing. And then a year later, High Times magazine, which is like a weed magazine, printed the flyer. So 4/20 doesn't come from anything. There's no great history. It was just 5 lads, their inner joke, their little NL 4/20. I love that. I love that it's become a thing. It's like it's celebrated worldwide, but it was literally just their in joke, their little, will we do it L 4/20? Nothing else to it.
Anyway, light up and enjoy your weed. That's a podcast, I reckon. And those of you who may have felt I went a bit over the top on the whole women walking around in their underwear, just know that I am a feminist and I am someone who cares deeply about rape culture and men behaving honourably towards women. And I am coming up with this as a point of view that I think girls need to sit down and have a little chat with themselves about. Just, it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the fact that you look fucking ridiculous.
I would stand. I don't. As I've said,
in advance for upset I may have caused.
No, I think it's important. Like, I don't agree with everything, or particularly the way you've gone about things. But I would stand over. Like, I could strangle you other times, but I would stand over very strongly that whilst I don't necessarily, but I think this is what we need. We need to have nuanced conversations where I think you're in the wrong in this, but I know. I think I know where you're getting, and there are splinters there where I'm going. I'm really uncomfortable with this, but I can honestly say. You have, pushes come to shove in my life and in things that are important to me, you have stood up, and not in a performative way, but like I know you genuinely, so sometimes I hear you say something, I go, geez, that doesn't sound great, and that doesn't sound like I know what you think, but at the end of the day, you're entitled to say what you want to say, but I actually have to stand over that and say.
And if anyone wants to come at me, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
All right.
But let's have conversation. And remember, the thing is, Sean, you'll never walk alone.
You'll never walk alone. And one of the things we'll finish where we started at Liverpool. Those of you from overseas don't understand that actually, even though Manchester, you probably know about Manchester United, Manchester City, both teams from Manchester in England, and Liverpool and Everton are both the teams from Liverpool. But the big hatred, the big kind of giants, cowboys, if I could call it that, a hatred, animosity has always been between Liverpool and Manchester United. Manchester United have been terrible. Liverpool are playing amazing football. But they played each other 2 nights ago, and Liverpool won 4-0, having won 5-0 at Man United's ground, so 9-0, worst in my whole 45 years of supporting. Mortifying. But Liverpool totally deserved it. And Man United, those of you who know a little bit about football have heard of a guy called Cristiano Ronaldo, who's probably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Cristiano Ronaldo is Man United's striker, and the day before the Liverpool game, he lost one of his twins who was being born, died prematurely or died during childbirth.
Yeah, they're boy-girl twins, and the boy sadly passed away.
And he had to deal with that with his wife. Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, is also very important to mention that he has a checkered history in terms of his violence towards women as well, and we need to say stuff like that when we talk about this. But he still is a father and has a wife or girlfriend who's lost a child. And Man United were playing in Anfield, and Cristiano Ronaldo is number 7 for Man United, and the Liverpool fans who
we're lifelong enemies.
7 minutes into the game, they all decided that they would applaud Cristiano Ronaldo and support him and his wife and his kids. So we've bitched about football fans here on this podcast.
I thought that was such class.
And, you know, one of the things I would say about Liverpool in seriousness is it's also the anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster, which I remember watching live. 97 Liverpool fans were killed in a stadium in Sheffield in the semi-final for a FA Cup.
We were at the monument at the moment of the anniversary, which was quite moving, actually.
While we were in Liverpool, there was a vigil during the afternoon, which we stumbled upon and watched. And the Sun newspaper this is 89, I think. All those years ago, the Sun newspaper just covered itself in its usual vomit with the way it reported it. And Liverpool have never forgotten that. And you see signs all over Liverpool. We put one on the podcast, a blurb.
Can't get the scum in Liverpool, can you?
Yeah, and I have to say one thing about Liverpudlian people, that I'm sure that there's plenty of gangsters and nasty people in Liverpool, but in a generalisation sense, they're very honourable,
there's a decency,
and kind. And
there's a real decency there. I liked it
about them. Anyway, at the game on Tuesday, they all at 7 minutes did this, and we will see you next time. Bye.
All right, take care. Love yous.
Oh, the Liverpool song is "You'll Never Walk Alone," which they break into here.
It's quite nice.
Yeah.
It's quite perfect for the actual.
This is a video taken by a member of there is humanity left.
Quite moving.
Talk about claiming the